thank you so much for participating this year at the Jivika Documentary Film Festival. How has it been for you?
Actually, Jivika has been a very important festival where I'm concerned. I make films on wildlife and environment, and my first film for Jivika was something called The Right to Survive, which was on turtle conservation and fisheries livelihoods. And so Jivika, because the focus is on livelihood, it was a great festival for me to enter. And similarly, again, I think every other year I have a film, and somehow every conservation issue I take up has livelihood linked to it, and it straight away gets connected to Jivika. So it's been a very good platform for all my films, and especially if I look at this year's film, Shifting Undercurrents, it's actually not a festival film. It's actually a film which is made for the community. It's going to be used on field for community meetings, for dialogue, for government officials. But because livelihood is a topic in Jivika, it made it possible for me to enter it here, so it gives it a bigger platform actually.
You've had a long relationship with Jivika and with the film festival, and like some of the participants this year. How has the festival evolved?
I think it's grown in stature over the years. Earlier, when it first came in, it was when I at least first participated. I think it was in 2006 or something, 2007 if I'm anyway.
It's been some time.
Yeah, it's been some time. Yeah, actually, when I first got to know of Jivika, it was still small in stature. It had just started. What was interesting was that it had a theme. What has made it, I think, pretty popular among filmmakers is that it's every year.
Yes.
Every year. And somehow a lot of documentary filmmakers in India are focusing on livelihoods because it connects any community you look at. It's all about livelihoods. So over the years it's actually grown in stature, and now everybody looks forward to Jivika. You want to enter your film there. You know, if you enter it, it's also shown in other places. There's also space for dialogue. So I see it as a very important festival, also to learn about India and learn about its people and what are the issues going on. So
I'm glad you said that. I mean, one of the things that we at Center for Civil Society feel is that there are so many issues of livelihood that aren't talked about, and that aren't exactly even known. There's a lot that is unknown. There's a lot of confusion. So how do you think, how do you think Jivika as a platform has been able to bring clarity to those livelihood issues, and do you think that the festival has done sort of justice to these livelihood issues?
I don't have a background on what the impact has been, so it'll be difficult for me to speak about that. But what I see Jivika doing is that it's clearly created a space for people who are working with livelihood issues in India, and especially difficult livelihood issues, mostly with poorer people, people who are marginalized, people who don't have voices. It's created a space for people to bring their films here and showcase it. And then you're immediately through CCS connecting it to the people who are working with policies, who are working on the ground. And it's a wide range of topics.
Yes.
You know. So, and why I would say it's an important space is because for documentaries to get shown itself is a challenge. While it is a very, very powerful medium for anybody to talk about anything.
Yeah.
If you show a film, you'll have everybody's attention. So I think that's the kind of space Jivika has created, where these films are getting archived or coming together on so many issues, and tomorrow somebody wants some visual representation of the thing they're fighting for. Jivika has that. So I think that's what it's done, and it's a very important space for people here.
As you said, and as an independent filmmaker yourself, filmmakers have a unique, I think, ability and advantage in terms of being able to tell a story, being able to showcase an issue, highlight an issue, sensitize people to a particular cause, and connect emotions, human emotions. why do you think it's important for independent documentary filmmakers, especially in a country like India, to highlight livelihood issues in their work?
I mostly do film on conservation and wildlife, and through many years of work, the biggest struggle with conservation is that the people you're talking about around conservation parks, whether it's coastal communities, whether it's forests, mostly it's indigenous tribes, it's indigenous people,
Right.
it's poorer communities, and they are the ones who are dependent on the natural resources. So when one is talking about conservation, the earlier definition was that you protect the area and throw people out. Now the changing scenario is that you cannot protect an area without those people.
Right.
So livelihood becomes a very important part, because if you don't create livelihoods for those people, or you take livelihood away from them, they are not going to be part of your team for conservation.
And they need to have ownership of those resources.
Ownership of these resources, and the role has to be that you work out balances, work out how you can protect a forest and still create livelihood for those people. You know, they are the ones who are creating a resource for us in terms of water. All the cities are dependent on the water which is coming from there. So why can't we, for getting our asset, give them some payment? Okay, how can systems like that work out?
Right, alternative systems.
Alternative systems. So I think that's why it's very important to look at least where conservation is concerned, where you're talking about protecting whatever is left of our nature. If you don't look at the livelihoods of these people who have been living there, who know about it, who are dependent on it, if you don't look at their livelihoods, I don't think we stand a chance at protecting anything.
Right. Your recent film, Shifting Undercurrents, you mentioned it is going to be used for something much greater than a festival. It's going to be used in communities. It's going to be used by the stakeholders of that particular community. So can you tell me a little bit about how you want this documentary to sort of work? How do you want them to utilize it as a knowledge tool, as a source for implementation? How do you want it to unfold?
Actually, this whole film is the whole idea of the film. I've worked with ICSF, International Collective, in support of fish workers, and they work with fisheries livelihoods and issues related to coastal communities, protected areas. And the thing is that the seaweed collectors are in a certain area where, you know, very few people know about what they do.
Right.
So how do you bring their voices up front to a government office,
Right.
to a policy maker, to a big meeting, to an international meeting? So the film actually is a very strong medium that way. You know, Lakshmi does not have to come out of a village to have a voice heard in the biggest meeting internationally, which is COP.
Right.
So film is a very strong medium. It is a medium where you can bring those voices up front to
Right.
everybody else.
And it also shows you that we often forget, or we are not sensitized to those communities that are so far away from us, that live so differently, that value different things compared to those who live in an urban city. And film, especially the documentary films that are raw, that are authentic, make you realize what you're not thinking about and what you need to think about. So I think films also do a great sort of justice to that. Do you think that, I mean, how would you like a film like yours and other films that are focusing on sensitive issues of livelihood, of sustainability, of access to opportunity and income, how would you like filmmakers to be able to influence policymakers, decision makers, people who at the end of the day are going to be the ones who can do something about a policy, who can actually create a reform that's going to have a positive impact on these communities, on people who are considered economically weaker, on people who are in extreme impoverished conditions, who need that support from us? How can we go about doing that?
I think in this case with the seaweed collectors, there are different NGOs working with them. The Fish Workers Union is there also. And what's happening is it's getting translated also in their local language. So the film is going to be used at various levels, at small community meetings, at a national level meeting. at an international meeting, they're going to keep using it to create dialogue, and it's that entire dialogue is being recorded, feedbacks taken, and hopefully a document will come out of it which can be taken to the forest department, can be taken to the government body, and it's going to be a long, I don't think a film can change things, it can only be a catalyst. A film can be a catalyst for people, it can be a knowledge tool, it can be something which generates discussion. I don't think the film standing on its own can change a regulation. There have been incidents where it has, but in this case it's a small film, it's bringing in different perspectives. So idea is that you put it there, let people talk, and then the other people on the ground have to take it forward. You know, in some cases the filmmakers do get involved. With other films which I did, like on hunting, I'm involved directly with the community in Nagaland, where we run this wildlife education program for the kids who are all used to hunting. But that's going to take years. We have to be in the field for years for something to change.
Because it's also a cultural sort of revolution that's going to have to take place.
Yeah. So I think with every film there's a different story. With every film there has to be a different plan. With every film there has to be a different purpose. So I think it's the nature of the film determines that, and it's always good if sometimes a film can just be on its own. It has its own creative thing, and you make it and you show it and let people take it forward. Sometimes you have to do it through NGOs. Sometimes if you feel that you yourself have to be on the ground, then you do it yourself. So I think every film has its own story of how it's taken forward. And,
with shifting undercurrents, for example, if a Center for Civil Society believes that behind every social problem lies a policy issue, in regards to shifting undercurrents, is there a policy issue that needs to be addressed?
Absolutely. I mean, with the shifting undercurrents, they're looking at all the policies which regulate protected areas. So this area, say, is a marine conservation coastal protected area. It's I think the MCP or something. The Wildlife Protection Act, which is for land protected areas, also applies to marine areas. So I think what they're trying is to see, can there be different rules for marine areas? Can there be, how do you work with coastal communities? How do you apply those same laws, or do you reform those laws for coastal areas or marine protected areas? So those are the things which are being done.
And getting that sort of intelligence not only requires policymakers, but it requires a lot of discussion amongst communities, amongst the people who are directly impacted day to day, know the groundwork, know what can and cannot happen in order for this change. It can't just be a policy making sitting up in New Delhi.
It's a combination, I think, of everything. Like it has to start from the ground level and come up, and ultimately, yes, the policy does play a big role. And today the whole debate is because they've been banned from going there. Right? So there has to be a system which looks into their interests, at the same time it looks at the conservation. So it does boil down to policy somewhere.
Right. Well, I'm sure fans of the Jivika documentary filmmakers, friends of Center for Civil Society, would love to know what's next for Shifting Undercurrents and what's next for you.
Shifting Undercurrents is now being taken up by ICSF and the Tamil version by the Fish Workers Union for community meetings, for dialogue, for the issue to be taken with the government. So that it's a tool which they're using along with other documentation that they've done. So we are hoping that the film will play a good role, or catalyst, or as an information tool, so to take their take their wants and needs forward and come up with some resolution. I mean, one is looking for a resolution, not extreme viewpoints here. And where I'm concerned, we are doing this project called Turtle Diaries. Again, back to the ocean. We've been doing it.
Someplace it's the best place to be.
It's Turtle Diaries is on, again, community conservation and also scientific work happening with sea turtles in India.
So there's going to be a huge research element involved.
Yeah, it's already ongoing since last year, so we've almost finished most of the shoot, and one last phase is left this year, coming season.
And in New Delhi, will Shifting Undercurrents be featured anywhere else? Because I'm sure people will definitely want to watch it again.
I think they are planning, right now the next screening is being planned in Chennai. They also want to have it in Delhi, but whenever that happens, I'll inform you. And it's also going to be shown at COP11 in one of the side events. It's being screened there because there's a huge, it's all about biodiversity. CBD is there, so the film is being used there for.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us at Jirika, and we know we will see you again and again and again as the film festival continues to grow, continues to influence people, reach more people across India, across Asia. For more information, log on to www.jirika.org. Thank you.